To draw cars, always start with a good line drawing. And I'm going to choose 3 markers. One 10% for the top, 30% for the front, and 50% for the right side of this vehicle. And then to start. Okay, and let's see. Let's start with the 30%. To put in the shading. So the technique is slow and then accelerate the marker tip. This will give you a gradation. I'm going to leave out a little bit of highlight area at the corner. So just accelerate the marker tip and then end where the highlight area is supposed to be. Pay close attention to the shape of the vehicle. Any area that are facing up, I'm going to leave it blank. Then I'm going to use 50% for the right side of the vehicle. Same technique, slow first and then accelerate the marker tip. Leave out any area that are facing up. For the front, I'm going to switch to 40%. Then to 10%, so I can have a smooth, soft corner, leaving out the highlight area in the front. So just use the lighter marker to blend. Also, I'm going to use the 30% to blend the marker on the side smoother. To get a really nice smooth shading. I'm going to switch to 70% to put in the shadow area on the side. And then also put in the shadow area in the front. put in the shadow underneath the vehicle with a straight edge. The shadow grounds the vehicle. So the next thing I'm going to do is using the 30%. I'll switch to 30%. I'll switch to 20%. For the upper area, since this area is facing up, and I'm going to use a lighter marker for this area. So this will help me distinguish the surface, the more vertical surface from the surfaces facing up. Now I'm going to use 40%. This is 40% to put in the slightly darker, this little surface area that is facing down. Well, it's not quite dark enough, so I'm going to switch to 60%. And I'm going to use pencil to darken this area further. So the shadow area will stand out. Coming to a point, sharp point. Okay. Now I'm going to use the 50% again. This is the same marker I used here before. So just to add a little bit of shadow area down here, because the surface is supposed to turn downward slightly. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to 60 again. For this area, for the front, there's a little bit of undercut surface right here. And then clean it up with the pencil. So keep everything nice and clean. And this is 50%. I'm going to also put in a surface area that actually turned downward slightly, so I can show the form well. That looks good. Here's also a little bit of undercut area that the surface is facing downward slightly. That's why I'm making it darker. Now use the darker marker to clean up the edges. If there's any marker bleed area, so this will be a really good opportunity to clean it up. So I'm going to use the 50% again to put in the gloss area on the side. Use a pencil to clean up the edges. There's a little bit of marker bleeding. So clean it up. Next, I'm going to put in the mirror, actually the shadow for the mirror. So according to the light source, the shadow should come down this way. So draw the shape and then put in the shadow. So shadow is very important. Once I put in the shadow, then you know that there's a mirror there. Okay. And then do a little bit of shading to define the shape of the mirror. I'm going to use 30%. 30% to put in the windshield. So press the marker firmly to get a good coverage. It's looking smooth. Also going to use a slightly darker marker, 40%, to define the headlight area. Next, I'm going to go over the side window with the 50% again. This time, giving it just a little bit of gradation. Grade from dark in the back to slightly lighter towards the front. I'm going to use the 40% to shade the details on the hood, the slight vertical area on the hood. So the hood area, the upper facing surface and then the front facing surface is not defined enough. So I'm going to use the 20% to increase the difference between the two surfaces. Also put in a little bit of shading from dark to light using the 20%. So always make sure that there's a slight difference between the upper surface and the front surface. So they don't become exactly the same value. Or they don't become too similar. So let me just go over with 30% one more time to make sure that the shapes, the surfaces are well defined. So all of this is just shading first. Okay, evaluate. I'm going to add this area, define this area a little bit better. So this is 10%. Surfaces that are slightly more vertical than the others, I'm going to turn those surfaces just a touch darker. And surfaces that are angling towards the top, towards the above, and remains lighter. So just keep doing it until all the surfaces are well defined. Okay, seems to look pretty good. And let me just use the 20% to add the details right here. Shade in the detail in these two areas. Clean up the edges. Also, smooth out the transitions between two surfaces, just making a little bit of softer transition. This is the 20% marker. Next, I'm going to use the 70% to put in the tire area.